Types of memory. I think I like it because of the colors. I keep on using this slide. It comes into different types of memory. Memory depends on without attention, we cannot create new memory. Or if we do, it's going to be really difficult. So the process of understanding new memory, creating new memories, you have to be able to attend to it. You have to be able to encode it. There's external information that's transformed into memory by short-term memory. Then we have to consolidate the information, which solidifies it into long-term memory and goes into storage, and then we're able to retrieve it. Assessing short-term memory. There's many different tests to assess short-term memory. We can assess it using the Wechsler system, the R bands, digit span, forward, backward sequencing, whatnot. The MMSE or the MSE, we can look at short-term memory or working memory via serial 7s. And short-term memory damage, some of the things that you can look at for short-term memory, damage of left posterior temporal lobe, total inability to repeat digits, letters or words, but the person can accomplish long-term recall of short stories. Right? Sensory areas in the posterior parietal, posterior temporal, and frontal lobes, you would have short-term memory loss. And frontal lobe, there's more interference and difficulty coping, and more intrusions and omission. Let's look at the memory as it comes on the R bands. So the R bands actually has two tests for short-term memory. The first is a list learning task, kind of like the CVLT or any other list learning task. You present the person with a list of words, and in the R bands you have them try it over and over again. So, I'm going to read you a list of words. I want you to listen carefully, and when I finish, repeat back as many words as you can. You don't have to say them in the same order I do. Just repeat back as many words as you can remember in any order. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Lime, coin, bed, cat, tree, shoe, truck, moon, boy, clock. Go.
Lime, coin, bed, truck, shoe, boy, clock.
I'm going to read that list again. When I finish, repeat back as many words as you can, even if you've said them before. You okay? Mm-hmm. Lime, coin, bed, cat, tree, shoe, truck, moon, boy, clock.
Lime, coin, boy, shoe, truck, clock, cat.
I'm going to read that list again. When I finish, repeat back as many words as you can, even if you've said them before, okay?
All right.
Lime, coin, bed, cat, tree, shoe, truck, moon, boy, clock.
Lime, coin, bed, truck, shoe, coin, clock, cat, tree.
I'm going to read that list again. When I finish, repeat back as many words as you can, even if you've said them before.
All right.
Lime, coin, bed, cat, tree, shoe, truck, moon, boy, clock. Go.
Lime, coin, bed, truck, shoe, boy, moon, truck, tree, cat.
Okay, very good. I'm going to read you a short story. I'd like for you to listen carefully and, when I finish, repeat back as much of the story as you can remember. Try and use the same wording if you can, okay?
I'll try.
At 8 p.m. on Tuesday night, Jack and Lee were riding their bicycles to a movie. When they were halfway there, they realized that the movie had started at 7:30. Lee decided to go home, and Jack decided to go to the movie instead. Now, repeat back as much of that story as you can.
At 8:30, Lee and this other guy decided to go to a movie, and they were riding their bikes, and when they got there, they realized that the movie had to actually start at 7:30. You know, they actually got there at 8 o'clock, so not 8:30. So Lee decided to stay and watch the movie, and the other one went home.
I'm going to read you that same story again. When I finish, I want you to again repeat back as much of the story as you can remember. Try and repeat it as exactly as you can. At 8 p.m. on Tuesday night, Jack and Lee were riding their bicycles to the movies. When they were halfway there, they realized the movie had started at 7:30. Jack decided to go home, Jack decided to go to the movie anyway, and Lee decided to go home.
At 7:30 on Tuesday night, Jack and Lee decided to ride their bikes to a movie. Halfway there, they found out that the movie actually started at 8 o'clock. No, it started at 7:30, but they had left at 8 o'clock. Jack decided to stay and watch the movie, and Lee decided to go home.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the Arbands has it listed right here. They get a point for every detail they remember, and for the first trial and for the second trial, that gives you a cumulative score. For the list learning, it's the same thing. 4 lists, and you total how many they got in each list, and that gives you a total score. It's either a 1 or a 0. If they get the specific detail wrong, then they get a 0. If they self-correct, then they still get the 1. Yeah, because you're just looking for memory. So the list learning test is consisted of 10 unrelated words, ready for immediate recall of 4 trials for a maximum of 40 points. The words are of moderate high imagery and low age of acquisition, thereby reducing possible education effects on performance. All right. So the list that I read to them were actually words that I made up. They weren't part of the copywritten task. The story is a 12-item story. It's read for immediate recall over 2 trials for a total score of 24, and it's the same basic structure. So those are the 2 immediate memory tests for long-term memory, or declarative explicit memory, requires intentional recollection. You've got your episodic with an autobiographical type of memory. This memory, you ask for details, as we talked about at the very beginning. Tell me about your wedding day, tell me about your first job. Memories for events are really important, and as much detail as you can get is crucial. And you should get as much collateral information about those details as possible to make sure there's not confabulation. Semantic memory for facts, concepts, skills, and those are specific to date and time. That's also with explicit memory. With implicit, it goes for procedural memory. Implicit is the unconscious, non-intentional memory that really comes about for understanding different types of procedures. So one of the examples, I don't know if I put it up here, action skills, operations, all of those can be under procedurals, like riding a bike. Many times people with Alzheimer's disease can still ride a bike, they still have good procedural memory. It's other types of memory that they're missing. The procedural memory is something that's lost with things like Parkinson's disease, because that part of the brain, specifically the basal ganglia, is one of the first to deteriorate. Long-term memory damage, frontal lobes, of course, the first thing to go is the short-term memory, namely because of attention. The hippocampus, if that's damaged, you'll lose concepts. If the amygdala and prefrontal cortexes are damaged, you'll lose emotional memory. If the basal ganglia, of course, is damaged, perceptual or motor memory, and temporal lobes, if the right is damaged, facial recognition and spatial processes. And if the left is damaged, a recall of word lists that we just talked about, or story recall, is impaired. Hippocampus, yeah, it consolidates information, specifically explicit and verbal memory, words, things, consciousness. Also, the hippocampus has been shown to be impaired for people with schizophrenia because they misinterpret information. The amygdala enhances memory by increasing attention with an emotional valence to it, tone, good, bad. It allows you to have memory for things that have an emotional impact, like our wedding or first. The right hemisphere, if that's damaged, you're looking at visual spatial problems. The parietal and occipital cortex, if these are injured, you'll have problems with long-term memory with regard to color loss, color amnesia, face amnesia, prosopagnosia. Now, the RBANS also has a delayed memory thing. Do you remember that list of words that I read to you a little while ago?
No, I don't.
I'd like for you to tell me all those words that you can remember now. It's a test, guys. It's a test.
There's a coin.
Okay.
There's a line. There's a shoe, a bed, a truck, a boy, a cat, and a moon.
I'm going to read you a list of words. Some of the words were on that list and some were not. I want you to tell me which of the words were on the list, okay?
After each one?
Yes. Was lime on the list?
Yes.
Was cherry on the list?
No.
Was apple on the list?
No.
Was coin on the list?
Yes.
Was elephant on the list?
No.
Was bed on the list?
Yes.
Was jaguar on the list?
No.
Was tree on the list?
Yes.
Was truck on the list?
Yes.
Was Volkswagen on the list?
No.
Was market on the list?
No.
Was cat on the list?
Yes.
Was valley on the list?
No.
Was joint on the list?
No.
Was moon on the list?
Yes.
Was boy on the list?
Yes.
Was clock on the list?
Yes.
Was angel on the list?
No.
Do you remember that? Do you remember that story about the movie that I read to you a little earlier?
Vaguely.
Tell me as many details from that story as you can remember now.
Jack and Lee were riding their bikes on Tuesday night at 8 o'clock to go to the movies. Halfway there, they realized the movie started at 7:30. Jack decided to stay and watch the movie while Lee went home.
A really good score, almost 100% on list recall, list recognition, and story recall. And the last part would be Miss Mancusi. So the RBANS has 4 different areas that looks at delayed memory. The first, as I said, was the free recall list learning. It looks at the 10 lists, and then of course the recognition is yes, no to 20 different questions, or 20 of them, 20 different words, 10 of which were target words and 10 were other words. The story recall, we're looking for them to get as much of that as they can. 100% for a volunteer, thank you. And then of course the figure recall, figure free recall, you have them draw the figure again without looking at it. And then, do you remember that figure that I had you copy? I want you to draw as much of it as you can remember now. If you remember a part, but you're not sure where it goes, put it anywhere. Okay? Try to draw as much of it as you can. And yes, those of you out there, please, draw that figure now. You have as much time as you want. Let's talk a little bit about memory loss. Memory loss could be due to anything, all right? Could be due to dementia, could be due to mild cognitive impairment, could be due to normal forgetfulness, could be due to age-related cognitive decline, it could be due to memory having to do with depression. You know, sometimes if we're depressed, we're not making new memories. It could be due to attentional deficit. If you're not able to pay attention, then we're not be able to get information to short-term memory, not able to get into long-term memory for consolidation. So, mild cognitive impairment, by the way, Rule of thumb is 1.5 standard deviations below an age-related norm, not necessarily the 2 that we're looking for. And it's usually not detected by the mini mental state exam. You can code it as amnestic disorder NOS, cognitive disorder NOS, and it might be due to a damage to the hippocampus.